Anya clutched her worn carpet bag. The train whistle a mournful cry in the vast American landscape. Her heart, however, held a fragile hope, a tiny bird fluttering against the bars of loneliness. She'd answered Caleb's advertisement in the mail-order bride catalog, his simple words promising a life, a home, and a family, something Anya desperately craved after years of quiet solitude. She imagined children laughing, a warm hearth, and hands to hold. The journey had been long and arduous, crossing oceans and continents. She'd practiced English phrases until her tongue felt clumsy, picturing Caleb's face from the faded photograph she carried tucked inside her locket. He looked kind, strong, a man who needed someone to share his life. As the train pulled into the dusty station of Harmony Creek, Anya smoothed her simple dress and straightened her back. This was it, the beginning of her new life. She scanned the platform, searching for a familiar face. But the man who stepped forward wasn't the Caleb she expected. There was a weariness in his eyes, a shadow that hadn't been present in the photograph. This was the first sign that her dreams might be different than she'd imagined. "Welcome to Harmony Creek," the man said, his voice rough around the edges.
"I'm Caleb."
He didn't offer a smile, only a hand that felt calloused and hesitant when Anya took it. The ride to his farm was silent, the landscape passing in a blur of browns and greens. Anya tried to find the words to express her confusion, the growing unease in her stomach, but the questions caught in her throat. Finally, as they pulled up to a weathered farmhouse, she blurted out, "Caleb, you look different." He sighed, running a hand through his thinning hair. "I know, a lot has changed since that photograph." He paused, avoiding her gaze. "There's something I need to tell you, Anya. Something I should have written. But, well, I didn't." He led her into the house, the interior dim and sparsely furnished. A woman stood by the stove, her back stiff, her arms crossed. Two small children clung to her skirt, their faces pale and curious. "Anya," Caleb said, his voice strained. "This is Martha, my wife." The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Anya felt the blood drain from her face, the fragile hope within her shattering into a million pieces. Wife, how could this be? She had traveled so far, risked everything, for a life that was already taken. The dream she had nurtured was now a cruel and impossible jest. Anya stared at Caleb, then at Martha, her mind reeling. But the letters, the promise, she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. Caleb shifted uncomfortably. "I know, Anya, I know. It was wrong of me, truly. But you see." He gestured around the room. "Life here is hard. After I sent for you, weeks turned into months. The letters stopped coming for a while due to a storm that damaged the mail routes. And I assumed you weren't coming." Martha remained silent, her gaze fixed on Anya with a mixture of suspicion and resentment. The two children at her side mirrored her unease. "I needed help," Caleb continued, his voice pleading. "With the farm, with the children." He sighed heavily. Martha was a widow, alone with her two little ones. "We were both desperate. It seemed like the only solution." Anya felt a surge of anger, quickly followed by a wave of despair. She had sold everything she owned, endured a grueling journey, all for a lie. She was stranded, alone, in a foreign land, with no money and nowhere to go. But amidst the turmoil, a flicker of understanding sparked within her. Desperation. She knew it well. Still, the question remained, what was she supposed to do now? The initial shock began to give way to a dull ache of disappointment and a gnawing worry about her future. As the initial shock subsided, Anya's gaze drifted beyond Martha and her two children. She noticed 5 other children huddled in the shadows of the room, their eyes wide with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. These, she realized, must be Caleb's children, the ones she had dreamed of mothering. There was Sarah, the eldest, perhaps 12 years old, with long, tangled hair and a guarded expression. Then came Thomas, around 10, who clutched a worn wooden toy, his gaze fixed on the floor. Little Emily, no more than 7, peeked out from behind Sarah's skirt, her eyes filled with a quiet sadness. And the twins, 4-year-old Samuel and Sophie, stood hand in hand, their faces mirroring each other's uncertainty. Anya sensed an unspoken loneliness in these children, a silent plea for affection and care. They were thin and their clothes were ill-fitting, hinting at neglect. Martha seemed cold and distant, her attention focused solely on her own 2 children, leaving Caleb's offspring to fend for themselves. It became clear to Anya that these children were not just part of Caleb's explanation. They were a reason, a need, a silent call for help that resonated deep within her. Despite her own predicament, Anya felt a stirring of compassion for these 7 lost souls. Perhaps, she thought, there was a reason she had come to Harmony Creek after all. The days that followed were a strange mix of awkwardness and quiet observation. Caleb, burdened by guilt, avoided Anya's gaze. Martha remained cold and unwelcoming, her actions speaking louder than any words. But it was the children who held Anya's attention. Sarah, the eldest, acted as a surrogate mother to her younger siblings, her young shoulders carrying a weight far too heavy for her age. Thomas, lost in his own world, spent hours whittling wood with his small knife, creating fantastical creatures that seemed to mirror his own yearning for escape. Emily, shy and withdrawn, clung to Sarah's side, her big blue eyes filled with a quiet longing for affection. And the twins, Samuel and Sophie, were inseparable, their laughter a rare and precious sound in the somber household. Martha's children, little Lily and Ben, seemed equally lost, despite their mother's presence. They lacked the spark of genuine joy, instead mirroring Martha's guarded demeanor. The children watched Anya with cautious curiosity. They observed her every move, studying her expressions, trying to decipher her intentions. Was she a threat, a replacement, or something else entirely? Anya understood their hesitation. She was a stranger, an intruder in their already fractured family. She knew she had to earn their trust, one small gesture at a time. She decided to start by simply being present, a quiet observer in their lives, offering a gentle smile and a listening ear whenever they needed it. Anya began to find small ways to connect with the children. She noticed Emily struggling to reach a high shelf for a storybook and quietly offered her assistance. She mended a tear in Thomas's worn trousers, her nimble fingers working quickly and efficiently. She shared a piece of hard candy with the twins, watching their faces light up with delight. These small acts of kindness, though seemingly insignificant, began to chip away at the children's initial distrust. She started helping with chores, peeling potatoes, feeding the chickens, tasks that Martha usually left to Sarah. Anya worked alongside the eldest girl, teaching her new techniques and sharing stories of her own childhood. She learned that Sarah yearned to be a teacher, but her responsibilities at home left her little time for studies. Anya promised to help her, setting aside a few hours each evening to read and learn together. Slowly, cautiously, the children began to approach Anya, drawn to her gentle nature and unwavering kindness. They started asking her questions about her life, her journey, her home. Anya answered honestly, sharing stories of her family, her dreams, and her reasons for coming to America. She didn't hide her disappointment about the situation with Caleb, but she emphasized that she wasn't there to replace Martha. She was simply there to help, to offer a hand, to be a friend. The children, starved for affection and attention, began to see Anya as a beacon of hope in their otherwise bleak existence. The contrast between Anya's warmth and Martha's coldness became increasingly stark. While Martha focused her attention solely on Lily and Ben, Anya embraced all 7 children, treating them with equal care and affection. She started cooking more nutritious meals, adding vegetables from her own small garden to the meager fare. She cleaned the house with a thoroughness that hadn't been seen in years, making it a brighter and more welcoming space. But more than the physical care, it was Anya's willingness to listen that truly set her apart. She sat with the children in the evenings, listening to their stories, their dreams, their fears. She encouraged Thomas to share his wood carvings, praising his creativity and imagination. She helped Emily overcome her shyness, reading aloud from her favorite books and encouraging her to express her own thoughts and feelings. She played games with the twins, filling the house with laughter that had been absent for far too long. Martha watched all of this with growing resentment. She saw the children's affection for Anya as a threat, a challenge to her authority. She criticized Anya's cooking, her cleaning, her interactions with the children, finding fault in everything she did. Caleb, torn between his guilt towards Anya and his loyalty to Martha, remained silent, a passive observer in the growing tension. The household, once merely somber, was now filled with a palpable undercurrent of conflict, a battle for the hearts of the 7 children. One blustery afternoon, Thomas was practicing his wood carving outside when Martha stormed out of the house, her face flushed with anger. "Thomas," she snapped, "get inside and do your chores. Stop wasting time with that useless piece of wood." Thomas flinched, his face crumpling with disappointment. He had been working on a small bird for Emily, a gift to cheer her up after a particularly rough day. Anya, who had been tending the garden nearby, saw the exchange and rushed over. "Martha, please," Anya said gently. "He's not bothering anyone, and he's very talented. Look at this beautiful bird he's making." She picked up the carving, admiring its delicate details. "It's a gift for Emily, isn't it, Thomas?" Thomas nodded shyly, his eyes shining with pride. Martha scoffed. "Gifts? What good are gifts when there's work to be done? He needs to learn responsibility, not waste his time on foolish hobbies." Anya's voice hardened. "He is being responsible. He's being kind and thoughtful. And sometimes, Martha, kindness is more important than chores." She placed a hand on Thomas's shoulder, offering him a reassuring smile. "You go ahead and finish your bird, Thomas. I'll help with the chores." Martha glared at Anya, her eyes filled with fury, but she said nothing, turning on her heel and stomping back into the house. Thomas looked at Anya, his eyes filled with gratitude. In that moment, a silent bond formed between them, a connection forged in kindness and understanding. From that day on, Thomas trusted Anya implicitly, knowing that she would always stand up for him, no matter what. The other children witnessed this exchange, and their respect and affection for Anya grew even stronger. The children's preference for Anya became increasingly apparent. They sought her out for comfort, for advice, for a simple hug. They confided in her their hopes and dreams, their fears and anxieties. They openly expressed their affection, calling her Anya, with a warmth and familiarity that they never showed Martha. "Anya, will you read us a story tonight?" Emily would ask, her eyes shining with anticipation. "Anya, can you help me with my sums?" Sarah would plead, her brow furrowed with concentration. "Anya, look what I made," Thomas would exclaim, proudly displaying his latest wood carving. Even the twins, Samuel and Sophie, who were usually shy and reserved, would clamor for Anya's attention, tugging at her skirt and begging her to play games with them. This open display of affection did not go unnoticed by Martha. Her resentment towards Anya deepened, festering like a wound. She saw the children's preference as a personal rejection, a betrayal of her own motherhood. She began to treat them with increasing harshness, punishing them for even the smallest infractions, and blaming Anya for their disobedience. "You're turning them against me," she accused Anya one evening, her voice trembling with anger. "They used to listen to me, respect me, but now, all they care about is you." Anya sighed, her heart heavy with sadness. She had never intended to cause conflict or to replace Martha in the children's lives. She had simply wanted to offer them the love and care they so desperately needed. But now, her presence was creating a rift in the family, a division that seemed impossible to bridge. Martha's jealousy manifested in petty acts of sabotage. She would hide Anya's sewing supplies, making it difficult for her to mend the children's clothes. She would accidentally spill water on Anya's precious herbs, ruining her attempts to improve the family's meals. She even spread rumors about Anya to the other women in town, painting her as a manipulative interloper who was trying to steal Caleb away. One day, Martha deliberately gave Emily an old, tattered dress to wear to the school picnic, knowing that Anya had promised to make her a new one. Emily, Her eyes filled with tears, ran to Anya, clutching the worn fabric in her hands. "Martha said this is all I deserve," she sobbed. "She said I'm not good enough for a new dress." Anya's heart ached for the little girl. She took Emily in her arms, comforting her with gentle words. "That's not true, Emily," she said softly. "You are beautiful and kind and smart, and you deserve the very best." She spent the rest of the afternoon working on a new dress for Emily, using scraps of fabric she had saved and her own skillful hands. By the time the picnic arrived, Emily was radiant in her new dress, her eyes sparkling with joy. Martha, however, was furious. She saw Emily's happiness as a direct affront to her authority. The simmering tension between the two women finally reached a boiling point, threatening to erupt into a full-blown confrontation. Caleb, caught in the middle, remained paralyzed by indecision, unable to choose between his wife and the woman who had captured the hearts of his children. Caleb, though often silent, wasn't blind to the changes Anya had brought to his children's lives. He saw the smiles that now graced their faces, the laughter that filled the house, the newfound confidence that shone in their eyes. He witnessed Anya's patience, her kindness, her unwavering dedication to their well-being. He also saw Martha's increasing bitterness, her petty acts of spite, her inability to connect with his children on a meaningful level. One evening, as he watched Anya helping Sarah with her lessons, he couldn't help but compare her to Martha, who was busy scolding Lily and Ben for a minor transgression. He realized that Martha's love was conditional, reserved only for her own children, while Anya's love was boundless, embracing all 7 of them with equal warmth. He started to question his decision to marry Martha, wondering if he had made a terrible mistake. Had he been so desperate for help that he had sacrificed his children's happiness? Was he so blinded by his own loneliness that he had failed to see the true value of what Anya offered? He knew he had wronged Anya, bringing her to Harmony Creek under false pretenses. But now, he realized that he had also wronged his children, denying them the loving mother figure they so desperately craved. He began to understand that Anya's arrival wasn't a mistake. It was a blessing, a second chance to create a true family, a family built on love, compassion, and understanding. But the question remained, what was he going to do about it? He was trapped between his duty to Martha and his desire to give his children the happiness they deserved. A fierce storm raged through Harmony Creek, bringing torrential rain and howling winds. The creek overflowed its banks, threatening to flood the farmhouse. In the midst of the chaos, little Sophie wandered outside, drawn by the swirling water and the flashing lightning. Before anyone could react, Sophie slipped and fell into the raging creek, the current sweeping her away. Sarah screamed, alerting Anya to the danger. Without hesitation, Anya plunged into the icy water, battling the strong current to reach the struggling child. Caleb and Thomas rushed to the bank, their hearts pounding with fear. Martha stood frozen with shock, her own children clinging to her side. Anya fought her way through the water, finally reaching Sophie and pulling her to safety. She carried the shivering child back to the house, her own body numb with cold. Anya immediately wrapped Sophie in warm blankets and started a fire in the hearth. She soothed the frightened child, singing a lullaby in her native language. Caleb watched in awe, his heart swelling with gratitude and admiration. He realized that Anya was not just kind and compassionate. She was also brave and selfless, willing to risk her own life for his children. Martha, witnessing Anya's heroism, felt a pang of guilt. She knew that she would never have been able to do what Anya had done. She realized that Anya was not a threat. She was a savior, a true mother to his children. The storm, both inside and outside the farmhouse, had reached its peak, forcing everyone to confront the truth about their own feelings and desires. News of Anya's heroism spread quickly through Harmony Creek. The townsfolk, who had initially been wary of the foreign mail-order bride, now saw her in a new light. They recognized her bravery, her selflessness, her unwavering dedication to the children. The women who had previously shunned Anya now offered her their support. They brought her food, helped her with chores, and shared stories of their own lives. They apologized for their earlier prejudice, admitting that they had been wrong to judge her without knowing her. Even the local pastor, who had initially expressed concerns about the unconventional family arrangement, praised Anya's character and her commitment to the children's well-being. He spoke of her as a shining example of love and compassion, a true embodiment of Christian values. The community's acceptance of Anya further solidified the bond between her and the children. They saw that she was not just loved by them, but also respected and admired by the people around them. This newfound validation gave them a sense of belonging, a feeling that they were finally part of something bigger than themselves. Caleb, witnessing the community's outpouring of support, felt a surge of pride and gratitude. He realized that Anya had not only saved his daughter's life, but she had also saved his family. She had brought them together, healed their wounds, and given them a reason to hope. He knew that he couldn't let her go. He had to find a way to make her a permanent part of their lives, no matter the cost. The children, sensing his growing resolve, began to hope that their dream of having Anya as their mother might actually come true. The night after the storm, as Caleb tucked the children into bed, Sarah approached him, her eyes filled with a quiet determination. "Papa," she said, her voice barely a whisper, "we need to talk." Caleb sat on the edge of Sarah's bed, listening intently as she spoke. "Anya is the best thing that's ever happened to us," Sarah continued, her voice trembling with emotion. "She cares for us. She listens to us. She loves us. Martha doesn't." One by one, the other children chimed in, echoing Sarah's sentiments. Thomas spoke of Anya's encouragement of his wood carving, Emily of her gentle kindness, and the twins of her playful spirit. They all agreed. They wanted Anya to be their mother. "Papa, please," Emily pleaded, her eyes welling up with tears. "Please choose Anya. She's the only one who truly loves us." Caleb's heart ached as he listened to his children's heartfelt plea. He knew that they were right. Anya had brought a love and joy into their lives that had been missing for far too long. But he also knew that choosing Anya would mean hurting Martha, disrupting the family, and facing the judgment of the community. He promised the children that he would think about what they had said, but he knew that the decision was not solely his to make. He had to consider Martha's feelings, Anya's desires, and the well-being of all 7 children. It was a heavy burden to bear, a responsibility that weighed heavily on his soul. He knew that whatever he decided, someone was going to get hurt. The question was who, and how could he minimize the pain? Caleb spent the next few days in turmoil, wrestling with his conscience and his responsibilities. He observed Martha, noticing her increasing isolation and her inability to connect with his children. He saw her resentment festering, poisoning the atmosphere of the home. He knew that staying with her would mean condemning his children to a life of unhappiness and neglect. He also watched Anya, marveling at her unwavering kindness and her boundless love for the children. He saw her patience, her understanding, her ability to bring joy to even the most difficult situations. He knew that choosing her would mean giving his children the mother they so desperately craved, a woman who would nurture their spirits and guide them through life. He finally realized that he couldn't let his own guilt and fear dictate his decision. He had to put his children's needs first, even if it meant sacrificing his own happiness and facing the disapproval of the community. He knew that he needed to talk to Martha, to explain his feelings and to tell her the truth. He dreaded the conversation, knowing that it would be painful and difficult. But he also knew that it was the only way to move forward, to create a future where his children could thrive and be happy. He prepared himself for the confrontation, steeling his resolve and praying for the strength to do what was right, no matter the consequences. He had a family to save and he couldn't afford to fail. Caleb found Martha in the garden, tending to her own small patch of flowers, separate from Anya's vegetable garden. He took a deep breath and approached her, his heart pounding in his chest. "Martha," he said, his voice gentle but firm, "we need to talk." Martha looked up, her expression guarded. She knew that something was wrong. She could see it in Caleb's eyes, in the way he held himself, in the very air around him. Caleb poured out his heart, explaining his feelings, his doubts, his fears. He told her about the children's plea, about his growing admiration for Anya, and about his realization that their marriage was not working, that it was not bringing happiness to anyone, least of all the children. Martha listened in silence, her face growing paler with each word. When he finished, she finally spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "So, what are you saying, Caleb?" she asked, her eyes filled with tears. "You want me to leave?" Caleb reached out to take her hand, but she pulled away. "I'm saying that we need to consider what's best for the children," he said. "And I don't think that's us together." Martha's eyes flashed with anger. "So, you're choosing her?" she demanded, her voice rising. "After everything I've done for you, after I helped you when you were desperate, you're choosing that foreigner." Caleb sighed. "It's not about choosing sides, Martha," he said. "It's about doing what's right for the children. And I believe that staying together would be a mistake." He paused, taking another deep breath. "Maybe it's best if you go." Martha packed her belongings in a stony silence, her heart filled with a mixture of anger, resentment, and a grudging acceptance. She watched the children, their faces etched with a mixture of sadness and relief, as they helped Anya prepare supper. She knew that she couldn't compete with the love and affection that Anya had cultivated, that she would never be able to fill the void in their hearts. Lily and Ben, her own children, clung to her side, their faces mirroring her own confusion and despair. She knew that leaving would be difficult for them, that they would miss their friends and their home. But she also knew that staying would be even worse, that they would be living in a household filled with tension and resentment. Before she left, she approached Anya, her expression unreadable. "Take care of them," she said, her voice barely audible. "They need you." Anya nodded, her eyes filled with compassion. "I will," she promised. "I love them." Martha turned and walked away, her head held high, her shoulders squared. She knew that she was leaving behind a life that she had desperately tried to build, but she also knew that she was doing what was best for everyone involved. She boarded the stagecoach, her 2 children by her side, and disappeared down the dusty road, leaving behind a family that would never truly be hers. The children watched the stagecoach disappear, then turned and ran back to Anya, seeking her comfort and reassurance. They knew that their lives would never be the same, but they also knew that they were finally safe, that they were finally loved. With Martha gone, an undeniable sense of peace settled over the farmhouse. The tension that had permeated every corner of the home dissipated, replaced by a quiet contentment. Caleb, however, remained hesitant, unsure of how to proceed. He still felt guilty for the way he had wronged Anya, for bringing her to Harmony Creek under false pretenses. Anya, for her part, continued to care for the children with unwavering love and devotion. She made no demands, offered no expectations. She simply continued to be the kind, compassionate woman that she had always been. Slowly, tentatively, Caleb and Anya began to connect on a deeper level. They started spending more time together, sharing stories, dreams, and laughter. Caleb learned about Anya's life in her home country, about her family, her hopes, and her reasons for seeking a new life in America. Anya learned about Caleb's struggles, his fears, his deep love for his children, and his regrets about the choices he had made. As they grew closer, the awkwardness that had defined their early interactions began to fade away, replaced by a genuine affection and respect. Caleb saw Anya not just as a caretaker for his children, but as a strong, intelligent, and beautiful woman who deserved to be loved. Anya saw Caleb not just as a weary farmer, but as a kind, honest, and loving man who deserved to be happy. They both realized that they had something special, something worth fighting for. A tentative love began to bloom, nurtured by mutual respect, shared experiences, and the unwavering love of 7 children. One sunny afternoon, the children gathered Anya in the living room, their faces beaming with excitement. They had been secretly planning something special, a way to officially welcome her into their family. Sarah stepped forward, holding a bouquet of wildflowers that they had picked from the meadow. "Anya," she began, her voice trembling with emotion, "we know you're not our real mom, but you're more of a mom to us than anyone we've ever known." One by one, the children presented Anya with small gifts they had made with their own hands. Thomas gave her a beautifully carved wooden bird. Emily gave her a drawing of the farmhouse, and the twins gave her a heart-shaped stone they had found by the creek. Caleb watched from the doorway, his heart swelling with love and gratitude. He knew that this moment was more meaningful than any formal ceremony could ever be. Sarah then presented Anya with a handmade banner that read, "Welcome home, Mom Anya." Tears welled up in Anya's eyes as she looked at the children, her heart overflowing with love. "I don't know what to say," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "You are the best children in the world, and I love you all so much." The children rushed to embrace Anya, showering her with hugs and kisses. In that moment, they were no longer just a collection of individuals living under the same roof. They were a family, bound together by love, loyalty, and a shared sense of belonging. The simple ceremony solidified their bond, creating a foundation for a future filled with happiness and love. Caleb knew, watching them, that he had to make it official. He had to marry Anya and make her his wife and their mother forever. Caleb proposed to Anya under the vast, star-studded sky, his voice filled with emotion and sincerity. Anya, her heart overflowing with love, accepted without hesitation. Their wedding was a simple affair, attended by the entire town, who had come to recognize and celebrate the love that had blossomed in the most unexpected of circumstances. The transformation of the family was remarkable. The farmhouse, once a place of gloom and neglect, was now filled with laughter, warmth, and a sense of belonging. The children thrived under Anya's care, their faces beaming with happiness. Sarah pursued her dream of becoming a teacher, with Anya's unwavering support and encouragement. Thomas continued to hone his wood-carving skills, his creations becoming increasingly intricate and beautiful. Emily blossomed into a confident and articulate young woman, her shyness replaced by a radiant joy. And the twins, Samuel and Sophie, grew into loving and compassionate individuals, their hearts filled with gratitude for the family they had found. Anya's influence extended beyond the family, touching the lives of everyone in Harmony Creek. She brought a sense of community, organizing social gatherings, teaching new skills, and offering a helping hand to those in need. She inspired the townspeople to be kinder, more compassionate, and more accepting of others. Harmony Creek, once a somber and isolated town, was now a vibrant and welcoming place, a testament to the power of love and kindness. Anya had not only found a family, she had transformed an entire community. Years later, as Anya sat on the porch, watching her grandchildren play in the yard, she reflected on her unexpected journey. She had arrived in Harmony Creek with a broken heart and shattered dreams, only to find a love and happiness she never thought possible. She had learned that family was not just about blood, but about love, loyalty, and commitment. She had discovered that even in the most unlikely of circumstances, hope could blossom and dreams could come true. She had faced hardship, prejudice, and betrayal, but she had also experienced kindness, compassion, and unwavering support. She had learned the true meaning of resilience, of forgiveness, and of the power of the human spirit. She looked at Caleb, sitting beside her, his face etched with love and contentment. She looked at her children, now grown and successful, their hearts filled with gratitude and joy. She looked at her grandchildren, their laughter echoing through the air. And she knew that she had found her place in the world, that she had created a family that would endure for generations to come. Her journey had been long and arduous, filled with unexpected twists and turns. But in the end, she had found happiness in the most unlikely of circumstances, proving that love can conquer all, and that family is the greatest gift of all. Her mail-order bride journey had brought her to a true home,